Welcome to The Real Deal, where it's all about businesses in central Massachusetts and northeastern Connecticut. And now, your host, Anthony Shabbat of Shabbat & Associates.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Real Deal Business Podcast. My name is Anthony Shabbat with Shabbat & Associates Real Estate Group of Keller Williams. And our next guest on the podcast is somebody that I've known for quite a while, a fellow realtor, but also running for state representative of the 50th District in Connecticut. And his name is AJ Kerouac. And welcome to the show, AJ.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to finally get to do this. This is good.
So we actually first met quite a while ago, a couple years ago. I was doing drone video, and was it just drone video, or was it photos too? I can't remember, actually.
I don't even remember now. But yes,
but that's how I meet
through drones.
I meet a lot of people because of real estate, because that's my main thing that I do. I spend the majority of my hours during the week doing real estate marketing, and I have for 15 years. And so I get to, over the course of my week, I get to meet a lot of people. And honestly, like every week, it's new people all over the place. Central Mass, Northeast Connecticut, Rhode Island sometimes. You never know where you're going to be. I'm hoping to go down into Florida and start doing some more stuff down there. That'd be really
nice
cool.
this time of year.
Should
start that right now.
I know, I am. I'm going, not this weekend, but next weekend.
Awesome.
First time going down there and hopefully going to be able to plant some seeds and get everything started down there. Okay. But so real estate's not the topic today, though, because AJ is running for state representative of a 50th district in Connecticut. And what are those towns, AJ?
So that's Brooklyn, Pomfret, Woodstock, Union, and Eastford. So it's kind of a large area. It's like half of our quiet corner here.
And what day does everybody go to vote?
So that's going to be November 6th. You can check your local polling stations. You can actually check that on the state Secretary of State's website for Connecticut. Most people around here have one polling station, either a school or a town hall, and you're open all day. So I tell everyone if it's easier to go at 8 a.m., go at 8 a.m. If it's easier to go at 6 p.m., go at 6 p.m. So it's kind of, I like how open it is. And over the past year, I've seen sort of a steadier and steadier increase on maybe not full-on participation, but just a little bit more spread out and all day. I mean, they really are, I think, doing a better job of accommodating everyone's different work schedules, life schedules. It's good. It's really good.
So I always like to treat the podcast in a way that basically anybody, doesn't matter if you're in fourth grade or 80 years old, you can understand what everybody's talking about. So who can vote for this? Can anybody vote for this? Do you have to be a certain age? Are you from a certain town, or how does that work?
So anyone for my seat, it's anyone in those 5 towns, anyone 18 or over, and the last day to register to vote is October 30th. So which is, you can't ask for anything better than that. You get a couple days before, you can still squeeze in under the deadline. So I think that really helps open it up to people too, because there are many, many times people just forget. They just don't remember, like, I kept putting it off. The other piece I like about that is for our new voters. They've done a great job this year. There's a couple of groups that have gotten out, done a get out the vote push so that they can help young people register. And so many, I was really surprised how many young people didn't know when or how to register. And I think it's just one of those big scary things that you have to do in your life where, the first time you file your taxes or the first time you do this, that you just go, okay, well, I have no idea what I'm doing. There's no class on this, so I'm just going to not do it until you absolutely have to, I guess.
That's a great point. It's actually a really important point because I completely agree with you. So actually, it's been a while since I've registered to vote, and I moved to Danielson a couple of years ago, and I don't think I've taken the time to go and register to vote in Danielson, honestly. I can't remember. I think maybe when I changed my mailing address. So
that's usually,
is that what it is? So then when I changed my mailing address, I think they asked me at that time.
Yeah, you can change it at your town hall and all that. The nice thing now is that you can also do it when you do your change of address for your license at the DMV and you can there's a whole bunch of ways to do that. So it's getting a little bit more accessible for everyone and kind of coming up into the modern times. I'm waiting for that day that we finally get all the way there and we can just sort of text in
that'd be
and
so
just say
great.
like, okay, yeah, I want to vote for this one, and this one.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
And you just literally get a reminder on your phone that says it's voting time, and you just go, okay, I'll open that app, and then you click, done. And you're like, okay, I voted. Where's my little sticker? And I put it on my shirt, and I'm good for the day.
It'd be much easier.
That would be so awesome, actually. It'd be great. I can't wait for that day myself. So November 6th, you have to get out there from 8 to, what is it?
Everyone has kind of their own. I think I believe we are opening early on. It all blends together at this time of year, though. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably going to be at the polling stations, my home polling station, around 6, setting everything up, so that we can have we have a tent there with people ready to, answer questions or provide more literature if people want more. Mm-hmm. The hard part in having such a large district, there are some people that have, one town or just one neighborhood. It's a little easier. So the hard part about November 6th is I've got to be in 5 places all day. So I'm just kind of planning on doing a round robin.
So is there anybody else that you wanted to talk about, or any other issues? Or, well, actually, I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse there, I guess, a little bit. So let's get into a couple other things that I want to talk about first before we get into that stuff, which those issues or those questions are. Where are you from?
So I'm born and raised right in Brooklyn, Connecticut.
Okay.
And grew up here. Went to high school. Went to St. James for grade school. Went to Killingly, and then I went on to college up in Boston. I was at Suffolk University, and I was there long enough to get that sort of need to have the wilderness back in my life a little bit more, not just on Friday, Saturday, something like that.
Yeah, nice.
So came back and moved to the middle of the woods again.
We live in a great area over here. I'm always all over the place, but I do tend to spend the majority of my time in Putnam, especially whenever I have the opportunity, because there's so much going on here, and it's a convenient, cozy, comfortable little town.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the thing I tried to even, as we go around and we talk to clients and stuff and working in real estate, that's the thing you always try to get in front of people, right? Like, what are you looking for? What do you want in your house? But what do you want out of your community? And that's one of the things I think here we really have hit like all the boxes. I mean, it's not that far to say when I'm in Brooklyn, okay, I'll just pop up to Putnam because I'll hit First Friday, we'll do this, we'll do that. And then I'm sure it's not hard when you're in Putnam to say like, okay, well, we'll pop down to Lapsley Orchard. We'll go like out for the day and go apple picking and spend some time outside.
Oh, yeah.
So there's all those good things. So I figure it's all right here anyways. May as well just spend most of my time here and then pop to the city when you really have to.
No, you're right. For me, personally, Putnam is the center of the universe because I live in Danielson. I work in my offices in Keller Williams' offices in Worcester. My kids live in Woodstock. I go to Rhode Island a lot in the summertime. So it's literally right in the center of it all. And to go anywhere, I have to go through Putnam anyway. So it works out great. And then, like you said, all the restaurants. You got Victoria Station Cafe, Stomping Ground. You name it. There's like
always something new.
17 restaurants or something like that in downtown Putnam. And you're right. New businesses are always popping up. You can literally walk from one end of Putnam to the other end, and you could just be in conversation for hours.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the other piece too that I think a lot of people, whether they're looking for a change of, like I said, a change in community or something like that, or looking for a new place, or if they are looking to move back and they sort of are balancing out, do I just go and live closer to the city and where I have the transportation, where I have this, where I have that? Like, you could do that, but we also have a fair amount of transportation as long as you have your car and this and that. The trade-off that you can't really somehow package and just bring with you everywhere is the overall community, the people. And, you start amazing conversations with someone out of the blue over almost nothing sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like...
And if you're drinking coffee, the next thing you know, you're talking about who knows what. And and you're like, what the heck? Where did the last half hour go?
Yep.
And you're walking around, showing people around Putnam. It's like everybody loves it so much around here that they're all tourism guides for anybody that's not as familiar with the area, because they're like, I want to show you this. I'm going to show you that. Let's go over here. Let's go to that restaurant. And next thing you know, I did the exact thing today. I would say I planned on coming to downtown Putnam for maybe half an hour. I ended up spending at least 2.5 hours just going all over the place, showing people stuff.
And the thing I like right this time of year is that no one's getting overloaded with. I know if you're coming into Putnam, it can be a little jarring right now, just because there is a wall of signs up. And it's not. I do like that. It's not. it's not been so much of a negative topic. It's sort of just like, oh, it's that time of year, and we're gearing up for a vote, and it just sort of is something that we're all doing, which is great, because I feel much better about that, seeing how it's not so smooth. The whole political discussion outside of maybe our little bubble is a little more difficult for other people. And I think it's nice here that everyone kind of just has their own room to have their opinions, share their opinions, and you can have a discussion and then be about your day. It's nice. It's been a little bit more pleasant than I expected it, with all the other stuff that I hear going on.
Yeah, it is pretty pleasant. On Facebook, it's not always pleasant. I think that's why people tend to avoid the whole topic on Facebook, because it seems like it's kind of a no-win situation a lot of times. From what I've seen, it's just, it gets really ugly really quick. Yeah. But in general, in person, I feel like people are a little bit more conscientious, a little bit more courteous, because when you're online, it's almost like you can say whatever you want, and there's no repercussions for it, except for the fact that the conversations get out of hand because there's a lot of emotion involved.
Very quickly sometimes.
But in person, I feel like everybody has a natural, for the most part, a natural ability to determine when things are starting to get a little bit uncomfortable, and then they say, okay, well, you should have a little bit of courtesy for the other person, and don't step into their personal space where Facebook is just like, they're all over you.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've had to highlight to a few people, a few different reporters throughout this whole cycle. And I tried to tell them, I think we're a different beast here in Connecticut anyways, because we'll have our Democrats tend to be a little more conservative than most, and our Republicans tend to be a little more liberal than most others. So there's that piece. But I tried to explain to them the best way I can, I guess, about our bubble in the quiet corner. And I'm just like, we're actually pretty good neighbors to each other. And I said, so you have to factor that in too, folks. I said, we have a little bit more of a moderate mindset, but then we also have that neighborly thing that, as much as, phones and all the technology and everything has maybe removed people slightly, and more so on Facebook and those sort of things, we still have to see everyone. So, you still give a head nod or a wave hi to whoever, and it doesn't matter. You don't really care about whatever letter follows or, precedes or follows their name. It doesn't really matter. So that's sort of a little unique thing that I try to sell people on to, the political folks. I was like, hey, you might just need a different change of scenery.
Yeah, and actually another thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was, as a member of the Putnam Business Association, I didn't make the last PBA meeting, and I'm not sure if you had a debate in that one. Have you had a debate recently?
So we had one. We had one yesterday. That was our last one from my race, hosted by Woodstock Academy. So they did that over at the Historical Society in Woodstock. We didn't have one by the business groups, and I think that was we were at a loss for that. I thought that would have been a great one to have. Because it is such a large area.
We had the Rick Hayes and the Larry Groh Jr. Debate at the last PBA meeting that I went to, not this previous PBA, but the one before that. And I was actually really impressed with the way that the whole debate was officiated by Romeo Blackmer.
That's it. I've heard
he did a great job.
Yeah,
and he's also the town crier with the I always call it the trifold hat, but is it a tri? I don't know if it's a tri-corner hat or the Paul Revere type hat. Yeah, like a Patriots hat. Yeah. So the funny thing is he literally gets dressed up on First Fridays in downtown Putnam with the vendor fair event, and he walks up and down with his bell and he ring, hear ye, hear ye, and he's the town crier, and he's also officiating the political debates at the business association meeting. So how did the debate go last night?
It was good. It was hosted, like I said, by Woodstock Academy, so they had people submit questions, and those had to be filtered just for safety's sake because it's run by the kids. So it was nice that we had that was pretty much the only teacher or adult involvement. It was just run by a couple of really bright young people that are probably more impressive than any of us were at that age, and they have an amazing grasp on current events and where the world's going and all of that. So it was really nice, and the way this young man sort of handled the whole thing, he fostered more of a conversation, which was, I told him, you gotta keep going with that. I think that was a winning strategy. You did not let people go head to head. If that was turning a little bit, you slowed your pace, and he really had a command of that part of the debate. So that was kind of helped it along and just be civil the whole way. What it highlighted for me was that for my race and the 35th Senate district. I mean, I hate to say it because I'm in it, but I don't feel like there's any real bad choice right now. It's just sort of where do you stand on the issues that are important to you, and then the big division just comes up in how we tackle the current problems. There's some people that they say, okay, well, everyone knows we're in a fiscal problem here in Connecticut. Not that it's that dire. I mean, a lot of people paint it a lot more bleak than it really is. If we just tackle it now, we can still get in front of it. And that's sort of the way I come at it, is that only, we deal with our own budgets as agents, right? You have X amount of dollars and you got to do all these things. So you got to purse it out. But we have our fixed costs too. We have our license, and we have, some people have their insurance, and then you have your car, and then you have all these fixed costs. And that's where we're at with the state too. We have 60% fixed costs right now. So I said, that 40 is it's getting strained, but that's what we have to focus on. it's once you have your fixed costs and they're settled in a box, then you know what you can tackle. It's still not going to be easy. I don't think it will by any means. But my biggest thing, and I always have to question myself about how much of real estate comes into my decision on that. But my biggest thing is just I've seen mill rates tick up, and more of a reliance as we've had businesses move out, go to homeowners, and to a certain extent business owners too. And I think that's a real issue that a lot of people bring up. But I feel that a lot of them are discounting the effects on the average homeowner. A lot of them have seen percentage jumps that have not matched their income.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, when you're getting a 10% increase to your taxes, and you're getting a 2% increase to your pay, you have to do some things too that are not going to be so fun and not so comfortable. So why shouldn't the state have to take the same haircut you are?
Yeah, actually that's a good point. Putnam, as great as it is, very high mill rate right now, 30.5 or somewhere in that neighborhood. For the Special Services District in downtown Putnam, which is almost double. I think it's 19 for the part that's not in the Special Services District. And don't quote me on these numbers, and please don't get mad at me if I'm incorrect.
And they could change tomorrow.
Because I'm not an expert in that area, but I'm pretty sure it's close to that. So so anyway, that's
and
a
that's
huge
the hard
jump.
part. Especially like we said, both of us love Putnam, but that's one of the hard things is, you want to be close in the consolidated. And you want to be close to downtown. You want to be able to walk to the restaurants, be able to walk to the stomping grounds, walk in the morning to come to Victoria Station. And, that also puts you in a different bracket. So you got to factor that in, that it's a little bit more convenient to be down there, but how's the cost going to factor in? Are you factoring that cost? So hopefully, I happen to have one of those little gas sipper cars anyways.
Yeah,
so it doesn't really it doesn't really do much for me. I'm like, well, walking versus driving there, not so different. That's
actually been a challenge for me lately because I have a Prius and a Jeep. Yeah. And they're both opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to fuel efficiency. So I always try to use the Prius if I'm driving a lot, but I try to use the Jeep if I'm around town because it's like a moving sign, and it's just kind of fun, especially when it's nice out with the top down. But it's tough because I have to switch between the two vehicles, and I have like a ton of equipment, and I have to bring it back and forth between the two. Then a couple sets of keys, and with Montgomery Ward Building leasing available in there, for today I had a showing in there and I completely forgot to bring the Montgomery Ward keys. So I was able to work around it a little bit, but it's just it is a little bit of a challenge going back and forth between the two vehicles. But I'm getting off topic. This is what happens.
Yeah, it's always good though because it makes me think of other things, and it kind of ties into both. You have the Montgomery Ward that's filling up. And then, and that's great. I remember when it was full when I was much younger, and then it's always kind of gone through a cycle where there's always a spot available, which was great, and because it always allowed for something new, and that always felt good. But also seeing it fill up is fantastic. Yeah, and there are other spots. Obviously there's other spots available downtown as well. And it's
getting tight though.
Yeah, and it's you have to want to really get in when you can have your spot in Putnam. It's one of those things. Time of year, I think, is when a lot of people start to look and maybe plan for next. But it's almost like that's too late once you get to this point.
Yeah, it seems like a lot is going on between now and the middle of November. For some reason, that time of year, I don't know if it's budget planning or what it is for the new coming year, but right now, if you look along up and down downtown Putnam, and we're getting a little off track, but I'll take 30 seconds to talk about this real quick. There's not a lot of retail space that's available. Actually, there's a vape shop going in next to Nikki's Doghouse, an Oxford Dragon Vape, it's called, and they're moving in there. Montgomery Ward has the third. We have some new announcements that are coming for the Montgomery Ward that I can't quite talk about yet, but it's very exciting. We believe the whole building is going to be at 100% occupied in about a month, and so that really only leaves. I can't think of any other space that's available, except for, of course, the section across from Victoria Station Cafe, from the Shopper's Guide all the way to Sadie's Sweet Shop, which there are a ton of spaces over there where Abigail's Jewel Box used to be, and then to the right of that there's a couple spaces, and then John DiOrio's building, 88 Main Street, which has been completely unoccupied for 10 years plus, and it went through a complete renovation. Except the interior is not ready yet. So that whole corner is 100% empty. Yeah,
it could change, and that's sort of what I always point out to folks. When you have something like that, it could completely change the face of what you got there. And even as we see, like from my towns, and we look at Putnam, and everyone has to decide: do we want to emulate that, or do we want to still have that right in our backyard, and we can still go to Putnam and we can be our own unique thing? And I honestly think around here, because we all have these little micro areas, like little micro environments for businesses even.
Brooklyn is coming along.
Oh, we have open spaces, and they're filling up, and then you have another thing happen, and we just had a great news with the purchase of the Icebox, and still remaining the Icebox, but in a new
I didn't hear that.
New way.
Do you know what's going in there?
The Icebox.
Oh,
so the folks who bought it are just going to revamp everything and continue it.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really good.
Keep the tradition alive.
Yeah,
that's
because
great.
I think we all remember going there. You know?
Of course.
So that's great, and even people who just zip through the area, who were, because everyone forgets, before all the cut throughs with the major highways, it was Route 6 and 44, and that's how you got between everything. So a lot of people stopped at that Icebox.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see a cone come back to Route 6. I was like, you guys could just do a cone. I know it wasn't you before, but you could do the cone now. So that would be good. But even in Woodstock, and to see, as you were talking about PBA, to see Woodstock's Business Association get these new legs kind of, and they're really doing their thing too, and that's fantastic.
They have a great meeting. I have been to their meeting, and the Woodstock one is a good one. I haven't the only other one I haven't made it to is Brooklyn or Plainfield, but Plainfield's a little bit out of my area. That I usually don't go south of Killingly because I'm between Shrewsbury and Killingly. But Brooklyn, I've always loved Brooklyn. I went to Brooklyn too for school, and I grew up in Brooklyn for a good part of my youth. And I would like to attend the Brooklyn one, but I don't know how many people go there, and I don't know when it is. I don't know how many, where it's located, where's the meeting, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've tried to keep up with their schedule. It changes time to time because they also have this Fun After 5 thing. It's usually at Hanks.
Okay.
This is the regular monthly meeting, but if they're doing Fun After 5, they usually have it at a location and highlight that business.
Like a business after the chamber kind of thing.
So it was best one. Sadly, is already passed, so you'll have to come around next summer to do Manny's. That's right on Quiet Corner, right on Route 6. And he has probably one of the best Fun After 5s that they have. He puts on everything, and his wife also adds some food to the mix, which is delicious, so you have to do that.
What is Manny's? I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Manny is the owner of the Quiet Corner Inn, which used to be the motel right next to Barris's. Mm-hmm. So that was that whole area. And I'm sure that'll also be changing soon. We had the Dunkin' Donuts location grow to the point where he could just build his own building, and now he has tenants and has a new spot that we can't talk about yet, but that's going to be very exciting.
There's something big going on.
He's finally filled the building completely.
Big space?
Yeah,
that was a lot of money per month. I think they were asking $9,000 a month, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was something up there. So it's they're actually combining. It was the build out was Dunkin' Donuts, 2 office spots, and then another size equal to the size of Dunkin' Donuts. So they filled the one, I believe Cricket Wireless went in, and now this new spot is going to take over the other office space plus the larger area. So it'll be
That's huge.
interesting. And if we have something like that, I think it's something Brooklyn desperately needs, because it just will add another choice to the area for sure, big choice. And I think that'll be, in the long run, great for even bringing in other businesses. Like, I think once we see one, we might get that ball rolling and say, oh, well, what if we had something like this? And what if we had something else? Because, like we said, right now you want to go out somewhere and there's a little one here and there, so everyone remembers the harvest, and now being grill now is the grill is great, and
it's very nice. Grill 37.
Yep. And it was hysterical when I heard that it was coming back because of who it was. And I remember working with Ian when I was a dishwasher at the Harvest, and I was like, oh.
So I didn't know this. Can you fill me in on this? Because I don't know that part of the story.
So Ian was I can't remember what position he had then, but he was one of the chefs when it was the Harvest.
I didn't realize that.
So many times, I was the pan washer, so that was my first job over there.
That's pretty cool. So I didn't realize that the Grill 37 is actually owned now by somebody that was working at the Harvest back when it was the Harvest. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Keep the tradition alive. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I love, is that it's his own spin on it, but it's still very familiar. It's still it's not exactly what the Harvest was, but it's a version, his version of that. So that's really nice. And then we have obviously the things over in Woodstock. You have the Inn, you have the Mansion, and all of those places. But even that, I do think that there's plenty of space for other people to come into the area, and there's actual physical spaces. I mean that literal and figurative. There's space, but there's also physical space available. So that'll be interesting. And as I'm actually looking at when you're saying about your office being in Mass, and that's what I was dealing with, where for years my office is down in Niantic and I was living in Brooklyn, and then I would also be doing stuff. So it was looking for a new location for that once all of this election thing is over. Once we hit, I tell everyone, talk to me November 7th. November 7th, there will be big changes. And I said, it doesn't really matter how November 6th goes, although I hope it falls in my favor. These changes have to hit anyways, but I want to get to this first. Let's focus on this election, then we'll do this stuff, then we can get, all of our legs under us and charge forward, because I think we probably we're ready for our time, I think, here in the Quiet Corner. I don't believe, there's been a lot of talk about that's gotten me quite nervous, with a lot of political groups and little quasi-governmental groups in the area talking about branding and all of these things. And we do this, I think, all the time for every property we have. How are we going to market it? How are we going to do this? And that's great, and I'm very excited to hear this whole idea that everyone wants to get a hold on marketing our Quiet Corner. The problem is that I keep hearing they don't want it to be the Quiet Corner anymore. They want to go on down this new route, and I said, the only problem I have with that is there's, like I said, the Quiet Corner Inn I already mentioned. There's Quiet Corner Antiques, there's Quiet Corner this, there's Quiet Corner that. I said, that is our identity. And I don't think it's a bad thing, just because, everyone's trying to focus on the word quiet. It can be a negative thing. And I said, well, yeah, but not for us. As I said, when I decided to move back, quiet was the positive reason that I moved back.
It's funny. I used to look at it that way. I used to look at Quiet Corner as a little bit of a negative because, I think you go through a period of your life where you don't want quiet because you've grown up with quiet your whole life, and you want it to be maybe a little bit more like city-like or a little bit more business everywhere. But you're right. I think you come to a point where you go out and you see all these things, and then you realize that you actually do like a little bit of quiet, a little bit of country, and a little bit of comfort and coziness going on. So it's kind of nice. But that's interesting. So, and the other thing I want to talk about with Brooklyn blowing up and having just all the businesses popping up all over the place over there. It's almost like the new shopping strip over there in downtown Brooklyn. Yeah. Who would have ever thought I would be saying that? But it is kind of true. And there are a lot of businesses going in over there. And somebody was telling me recently, and I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but the bowling alley.
I would love if someone could fill that space.
I heard there is.
It would be really good. I hate to say, maybe I'm just so jaded at this point that that would be the fourth or fifth thing that I've heard was supposed to go in there.
Oh, really? But
so,
no,
yeah.
no, I
somebody,
somebody showed me a picture. They showed looking in, and it's been completely cleared out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That happened.
So I didn't know if that, but it looked like there's something else work being done in there too.
That would be
so I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that, because it would be nice to bring some life back in over there. It's been vacant for a while.
Yeah, and even I can't remember what they call the development, Townsend's development. I forget what they called that. So that's CVS and Jewett City Savings Bank, and that spot behind that is way bigger than people believe it is. I think everyone's zooming by on Route 6 and they just see CVS right there. But
Pet Value
right behind. So there's a whole building was still approved, actually, proposed, but just waiting behind Pet Value in a big L shape. So you're talking about something roughly 3 times the size of the CVS, and all lined up in a beautiful architecture that was proposed anyways. I think it would add so much to that strip, and also create I get that, like I said, we have spaces available. The problem I feel is that we don't have the diversity of space available. It's sort of like we have, like you said, the bowling alley, big space, and then we have the old what is it? Not the old Big Lots. I forget what else is there. But then it was the
Salvation Army.
Yeah. Another big space.
Huge.
So I said, even like I said, the Dunkin' Donuts space, also a pretty large space. And now it's even bigger since they're taking over the other unit as well. And then we have the old Dunkin' Donuts, big space.
Did you hear anything going in the old Dunkin' Donuts? We're just kind of like talking about commercial real estate so far.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, only commercial. I haven't heard of, now that they also want quite a bit for that. I was very surprised by the rent.
I think I heard that as well.
It's up there, and it's up there to the point that it's disproportionate to every other thing we have. And I feel like when it's an older building than the new things, and then you're 3 to 4 times the price of the new things. It's probably not something that's going to be filled anytime soon, unless there's some sort of change. Because what we know is, the price is the price until someone makes an offer, right?
Yeah,
and then that can change at the drop of a hat.
Right. That's true. A property is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right. Exactly.
And I noticed there was a house over there that got leveled recently. I think I don't know I don't really pay attention. I just kind of drive through, but I noticed there was a house missing.
Yep.
About a month and a half ago.
So the interesting part is that Brooklyn hasn't allowed residential anything in their planned commercial zone, is what that whole area is. And Brooklyn's not allowed any residential use for years now there. So that was one of the last grandfathered properties that you could still have some sort of residence, in I hate to say walkable, because Route 6 isn't exactly walkable, but, adjacent to businesses. So it definitely wasn't the highest and best use of the land as it was, because it was plopped right in the middle of the lot. You're not going to squeeze something in behind it or in front of it. So I think that was kind of his only option. In order to make this more attractive to investment, we got to take out that house. So it was, I think it was a good thing. It was shocking to see it all happen. It was very quick.
It was. I went by it and I was like, well, it's gone. I didn't even see it happen. Yeah. Leveled and no trace of it.
Yeah.
Then there's also the space across from Hank's, which is, I don't know anything about that, but huge commercial space available from what I heard.
Yeah, that's a little hard, because if you remember when it first transferred, and it was supposed to be a big planned thing then, but that was right at almost the peak of the market. So those are those projects that I think are still lingering on some people's books, and we can't get away from that in the state. Some of them I'm like, you guys got to do something where you either account for it in another way, or hopefully you already took that loss and rolled it into whatever, and you have another plan to get out from under it now. But I think the days of dreaming that you're going to somehow break even after 10, 12, 15 years, might hang on to that a much longer to break even on that.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I don't know much about it. I haven't really looked into that area very much. I'm literally so caught up in this area. It's almost like my own little bubble. I almost don't look outside of this area.
Oh, and Napa Pep Auto just transferred recently. So that was, and it was, luckily it was all together. It was all a big package. So right there on Route 6, as you're going kind of up the hill out of the commercial area on the right-hand side, they were able to do that transfer. And so it's that location, and I'm going to blank on where their other location is. I know it's in Plainfield. I'm just not sure on which road. But that all, just recently transferred. So that was exciting too, to hear that. another thing, the business is continuing instead of just being transferred and, dissolved.
Oh, I see.
So it's good to know where, even as those transfers happen, we're not really losing our business in the area.
Yeah, that whole area has just really gotten a lot of traction in the past few years. It just seems like it just keeps getting more and more going on over there. And it's actually, it's kind of funny. I was talking to somebody about this a couple weeks ago. It seemed like it used to be in Northeast Connecticut, Danielson was actually the place to go.
Yeah.
And Putnam wasn't even anything going on around here. And Brooklyn, I mean, there was like Johnny's Pizza and Pizzarama. That was it. And then maybe Bowling Alley, But really, Killingly was... Danielson was the main area that you could go. The Springtime Festival was there. That's where all the businesses in northeastern Connecticut used to be. And now it's just the opposite. It's Putnam, Dayville, and Brooklyn, really, from what I can tell. It seems like that's where everybody goes to go shopping now. There's the Walmart in Putnam, the Walmart in Brooklyn, and then Dayville, Target, and all the shopping centers over there. Kohl's change. And now the Harbor Freight and all that, Planet Fitness and all. Dayville's really exploded over there. That whole center.
And it's so nice, and it's nice that to see the town also. So from I put on like my zoning hat and I look at it how they kind of accommodated all those changes, and it was impressive, but it was also something that I was able to point at multiple times and say, see, this is how we do this. This is how you do that. So they saw development organically happening and said, okay, how do we keep this? How do we foster this the way we want to from a zoning perspective? And they did zoning. They redid their zoning map. They did different changes here and there, and sort of just that natural organic growth was able just to keep on going. And that's a huge area. I never thought I would look at something that big and see, only a handful of empty spots. Because I just never thought, with our population, I couldn't imagine there'd be enough to support it. But so every single thing is filled now.
Are you involved in the Brooklyn as far as the town government or anything in those?
Yeah, so I've been on zoning for going on 7 years.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah. So no wonder you know so much about Brooklyn. That's great insight. Excellent.
Yeah, it's been great, and we're right now we're wrapping up our big project, which was rewriting our zoning regulations.
Oh, I had no idea.
That was huge. Yeah, that was huge. So it was. The focus, I think, for most of us going into that was just fixing inconsistencies, but also just bringing some of the old things that we were reading and just saying that just doesn't, it's not relevant to today. And I mean, the biggest glaring issue was that even what we do, it would be hard, depending on where you lived in town, to run your photography side of your business. If you had that as your actual business location, some of the parts in town were hard to justify having that in your home. And I said, there's no justification. This is what business is now. A lot of people telecommute. A lot of people have their own small thing that they do from home. But some people, that's their main job that they do from home.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So it's so when we examined that, I said, okay, I think when you give it the real world test is what I tell everyone. And when you look at something, and if you have 20 or more people in your town that are out of compliance with your regulation, there's probably something wrong with your regulation, not wrong with the people.
Yeah, times are changing.
Yeah.
And people really don't need a physical location. They do everything on the road. And but if they don't have a physical location for their business, then I guess it's technically out of their house, So,
yeah.
I'm on site everywhere, every time I do a shoot. The only thing I do at home is edit photos or videos and that type of thing. So, and even with real estate, I really don't need an office. I have the Worcester office.
We have our cars.
My business is taken care of on site when I go to show a house, or if I'm listing a house with the showings at that house, or all that stuff is basically in person on the location. So definitely, you don't really need an office as far as I'm concerned. I've talked to other realtors that like to have an office that they go to. I've never brought a client to my office. Because there's no need to. We just do everything online, electronically, and in person, and we show the properties. And
I like kind of the way that's gone. So I mean, even I know we say we're all over the place, but even like the hubs that are easy to meet people at, and there's plenty of times where I've just told people, okay, meet me at Victoria Station, come in there, like, what do you
Yeah,
want?
this
Like,
place
you want
is
a
the
coffee,
office,
you want
right.
a sweet, like, what do you want? Something just to relax. You know, we're making a big decision, so let's like be comfy about this.
Yeah,
And
100%
it's,
agree. This
yeah.
is my office.
Yeah.
More than anywhere.
Yeah.
100% agree with that. This place in the Montgomery Ward building, but really, this is when people ask me where you want to meet, it's pretty much Victoria Station Cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really happy that they have this place here because it's a great addition to Putnam.
Yeah,
They're
it's
excellent
good.
to work with, Christina and Dave. You know,
Right, and like they say, everyone. We were talking last week. I said, I'm like, well, why do you think we do this, and why do you think we do this as customers? And they said, well, everyone looks at this place as like it's like their living room. I'm like, yeah, that's totally true.
It is.
I feel just as comfortable here.
It's basically like Friends, Central Perk.
Yeah,
It's exactly Central
is.
Perk. Really,
It
like
is.
when
We
you
need a
walk out the
couch.
front door.
We need the couch.
So yeah, it's a great place to be. So anyway, that's the fun thing about this podcast is we have the flexibility and the freedom to just go off on tangents and talk about whatever we want to talk about. But we do have the election coming up, and we probably should get to talking about some of the issues that you stand for, because I'm sure that's what a lot of the people are, if they're listening. That's why they're listening to this particular podcast, because they want to hear what some of the issues are. So let's get to some of those. What are some of the issues that you're having to deal with that you find people can align with your perspective? And
Yeah,
so
I
can
mean,
you
a
talk
lot of
about
them
that?
a lot of the things we've touched on. So the biggest thing is kind of a crossover between real estate and public government. You know, it's what are people looking for when they're looking to relocate their business, or they're looking to relocate their families and buy a home and all of that stuff. The number one time and time again, and a lot of people think it's, well, they want what they want, and they want their services, and they want this. But people, whether they have children or not, are answering many, many new surveys just saying schools are number one. Because at the end of the day, a home's an investment. So if you are a single person buying your home on your own, you want to be able to sell that home eventually.
School is huge.
Yeah, you got to have that. So that's sort of what I highlight for the folks on the government side, and tell them, you guys got to wake up to this need too. This is a requirement. It's no longer something that people look for and go, oh, it'd be nice to have X, Y, and Z.
I agree.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, and there are certain towns that are just known to have preferable school systems. And as a realtor, I can tell you, it does make a huge difference. I have a property in Brooklyn right now. It's a pretty affordable price range, and it's in Brooklyn, which means they go to Brooklyn School and they go to Woodstock Academy as one of their options for high school. They go to Killingly too, but it seems like once somebody gets involved in the Woodstock school system, where they live in Woodstock or whatever town it is that goes to Woodstock, they don't want to change that.
Right.
And they feel, and this one house, we've had so many showings at this house, and it does need some work. It does need some improvements on the property. So a lot of people have expressed interest. There's been a ton of showings. A lot of people are interested because it does need some work. But man, I'll tell you, that property gets more showings than any property that I've ever had for sale.
That's
and
awesome.
it's out of control. We have 3 people that are pending offer status right now.
Nice.
Yesterday, 2 people told me they were going to make an offer on it. The day before, another person told me they're going to make an offer on it. So it's a very attractive property.
Yeah, that's
so,
good.
and it's because of Brooklyn and Woodstock.
Yeah, that's one of those funny things when on a government side they bring up school choice and it means something completely different to them, and I'm going, we have school choice and it is great for us. We have our elementary school and we have our middle school, and then when you get to high school, you choose. Do you want to go to Killingly? Do you want to go to Woodstock? We also have NFA. There's all the private and parochial.
I didn't
schools
realize
to
that
choose
you can
from.
go to NFA too.
Yeah.
Because see, I went to Killingly. I love Killingly. I went to Woodstock. I love Woodstock. Went to Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn. So I've been to all 3 school
Nice.
systems that you can go to if you live in Brooklyn, and I love them all.
Yeah.
So I have no complaints.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and it's funny to me how the schools have changed and grown since even I remember coming through, and I'm just going like, it's totally different now. I don't know how the kids make their choice, because it's like the whole world is open to them when it comes up to that time in their life now. But my favorite part, and that was sort of where I have to give a plug to Patty Buell when she came into Brooklyn. She's our new superintendent for the past couple of years now, and I'm hoping we have her for years and years and years to come, because what she's brought has been fantastic. And she has this whole thing where she talks about celebrating it's Brooklyn's best, and she talks about celebrating the students. And it's every month there's all of these things that maybe you hadn't heard about, but here it is. So that's been fantastic. And the best part I've found with that is at the end of the year wrap up, they always bring in kids, Brooklyn kids, from the various schools to give some sort of presentation. You know, what are you learning in this program? What are you learning in that? And you'll usually have a freshman or sophomore and then a junior or a senior. And it's super interesting. And I mean, I was blown away at the end of this previous school year. There was a young lady that was at Ellis, and she was doing precision machinery. And it was just like, here's I think she was 17 actually though, and
machining like CNC machines and turning lathes and that type of thing.
Yeah, so she was focused on. I mean, she was sure and going into a career where she would be machining parts for other things, and she loved, which was, I told her it's exciting to hear somebody interested in what they clearly have a passion for,
Yeah.
And she gets excited over the fact that we can get something so precise that it's 0.00000 is where we're at.
That is precise.
And I was like, that's fantastic. So
I used to be in CNC machinist.
Yeah, it's exciting, and to see that there is a lot of opportunity in that field anyways right now, which is great. But then even the kids, there was another one that coming through, I believe he was at Killingly in the VOAG program and finishing up there. And to hear what I've tried to plug that to people for years because I had plenty of friends who were in VOAG when I was at Killingly.
I heard they have a great program.
Fantastic, and it's gotten even better.
I don't know anything about
amazing.
But I keep hearing great things. They have such a great VOAG program.
They do, and it's a credit to the teachers that they are running it, because it's just, they come at it from a perspective of, I think a lot of people see it as you're a farmer, you're learning farming, but you're not. You're learning farming, you're learning accounting, you're learning marketing, you're learning business planning.
Oh, I had no idea.
It's amazing. And they really get that into the kids' heads freshman year. Try everything you want to try, find out what your niche is, but realize that if you're going to be a farmer, you have to be all these things,
Yeah. Because you're a business owner.
Yeah. It's very, and then that's sort of what I've gone around talking to at, we actually brought that up at the debate last night. People talk about what we need to do for businesses as legislators, and then they talk about how we're going to help our farms. And I'm going, those are one and the same thing in my book. Those farms are small businesses.
Oh, yeah.
As much as it's a physical thing and it's a labor, I think, why are we putting, investment into these sort of quasi-governmental groups that go and they'll help you seek out your grants and do your marketing and do this? I'm like, but then we treat the farm like it's something completely different. They also need that. I mean, the case in point would be the farmer's cow around here. I mean, they did everything. They're amazing. I've seen that go from nothing into what it is now.
Yeah, that was really pretty neat to watch.
But it highlighted that these, you need creatives, and you need, I always say, like, there's usually the creative, and then there's always like I hate calling them the executioner because it makes it sound bad, but it's like, there's a person that can execute everything. Creatives aren't usually great at that, and we as realtors are usually creatives and not so much the doers. But when you can have someone that can do that too, that's what brings it all together, because you have the great idea, which it obviously was a fantastic idea, and then you can just plug away at it. And talking to many people in this area, it's amazing to me going around and hearing what people have to say, and they're so on point with what their ideas are for, how to help business, how do I grow my business, how are we going to make our communities better, how do we turn the state around. And it's one of those things where I look at it as, I'm running for this spot because I'm just a neighbor of everybody. It's just like, like we have these discussions. I'm not running to say, I know exactly what you all need and let me do it and force it upon you. It's like, mine is, I love talking with everyone in the area. That's probably a real estate thing. I also like seeing their homes when I get to knock on their doors.
Me too, yeah. I know. It's fun. I love talking to people. Yeah. I love houses. This works out great.
So it's one of those things where you just go, okay, well, we've all talked about this. Here's the common thread. Now let's get this done. And I would love to be able to push that for folks. But at the end of the day, it's up to November 6th, and no matter how it falls, I mean, I'm involved in my local community. I'm sure that won't change one way or the other. It's just sort of something where I see, here's how I'm involved now, and here's what we've been able to do, and open up all these things and try to make it a better. Well, I think we have made it better for our residents. And now I want to expand that to the other 4 towns.
Yeah, well, you are a great person to talk to. You're a fun guy to have around.
Thank you.
And I always enjoy whenever I see you. It's always a friendly smile and a wave and, hey, how's it going? So I think you're going to do a great job, and I wish you the best of luck with everything.
Thanks.
And if I'd like to have you back on eventually. I always like to tell everybody, get in touch with me in 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever works for you. Let me know.
As state representative.
As state exactly. So just be sure to stay in touch and remember the little guys.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to have you on, AJ, and let me shake your hand and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And so let's just remind everybody how they can learn more about you before we close it out. Phone number, web address, Facebook page, email, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so my phone number is everywhere. It's very easy as well. It's 860-234-9999. And then we have everything as far as social media goes. We have the Facebook and Twitter, and we have Instagram. And if you search Vote Kerouac, all one word, on any of those, you'll find me. Or you can go to votekerouac.com and get linked to all the same things. So it's all one big circle.
And can you spell it for us, too? Because I know when I first started talking to you, the spelling was an issue. Well,
it's Kerouac.
So exactly as it sounds is how it is. All right. Well, thank you so much, AJ, for being on the show. And for more information, everybody, if you are listening to this and you don't know how you listen to it because you told Google Home to listen to the Real Deal Business Podcast, you can get more information on Facebook if you just search for Real Deal Business Podcast. Might also want to throw in Chabot, CHABOT, in there. I also have a real estate version of the podcast, the Real Deal Real Estate Podcast, and I try to keep real estate-related professionals on that show. And for more information about me, Anthony Chabot, with Chabot & Associates Real Estate Group, you can do the same thing. Look it up on Facebook. I always recommend Facebook to everybody. Everybody seems to be on Facebook for the most part. If you're not on Facebook, you can just give me a call, 508-847-0902, or check it out online at chabotandassociates.com. And I would like to thank everybody for listening to the show, and feel free to give me a call if you would like to be on the podcast. It's free, and I love to interview fun people that are kind of interested in the community of northeastern Connecticut or central Massachusetts, whether it's real estate or just business networking type of people. And thank you so much again for listening to the show, everybody, and we will see you next time.